Do you have to run a sump on your saltwater aquarium for you to be successful in keeping that tank? Let's talk about it. I'm Logan from Reef Rookies, and I'm here to help you demystify saltwater aquaria. And when you're talking about sumps, there are a myriad of benefits to running one, but there's some downsides as well. I happen to have a little bit of insider information, and you're going to want to stay all the way to the end of the video to make sure that you find out what that inside info is. Right off the rip, one of the downsides is you're going to have a lot more water volume and a lot more equipment, which means a lot more weight. So you need to be sure that when you're calculating your weight requirement for your tank and everything, you want to take into account all of the things that the sump is going to add to that weight. Now, it's debatable whether or not this is a downside or not, because some people really enjoy this part of saltwater reef keeping, but a sump is going to add a great deal of complexity to your system. You have to do it the right way, or you risk an overflow and you could end up flooding your home with salt water, which is never a good idea. Another potential downside is if you don't keep your sump, relatively clean, detritus can build up down there. And if it doesn't get taken care of in any other means, it could begin to create phosphates and nitrates for you, which may not necessarily be a good thing if you're running like an ultra-low nutrient system or something like that. In general, these are about the only bad things that I can come up with for why you might not want to run a sump. But in my opinion, the good benefits of having a sump on your tank heavily outweigh the negatives. So let's talk about those. So one of the things the sump is going to do is increase your water volume of your entire system. And as we know, increased water volume is going to lend itself to slower parameter shifts and more stability over time, which is always a good thing when you're talking about a mixed reef tank or a coral tank. Another one of the benefits of having a sump is it pulls some of the equipment from up in the display down below, so your display looks cleaner, it's more aesthetically pleasing. You don't have heaters and tons of pumps and all of this stuff hanging in your main display or hanging on the outside of your tank, and it just looks a little bit nicer. Yet another benefit of having a sump is you might have room down there to have a very large refugium where you could grow macroalgae like Cheetomorpha or Halomedia or Caulerpa species. Now, there are some of these that you probably want to avoid, but there are lots of great options for you to grow plants down in your sump. It gives a space away from predation for good beneficial bacteria and organisms like copepods and amphipods, and yes, even bristleworms, in my opinion, are good to grow and thrive and populate that area of the tank. And these are all detrivores, so they use up some of the waste in the aquarium and convert it into things that the aquarium can use. Having a refugium on your tank is an additional step in adding some stability, adding some nutrient uptake without it just being mechanical filtration. After all, we're trying to build an ecosystem here. Along with running a refugium in your tank, you're going to have to run some sort of a light to keep that going. Those plant growth lights that you see on Amazon and whatnot usually do a pretty good job. But in doing that, you can have that light running on an opposite light schedule from the lights in your main display. So you have the display on in the day and the sump lights on at night. And what this does is it has a stabilizing effect on the pH of your aquarium. Now, it's not going to make it perfectly stable, but it's going to reduce that day-to-day swing of the up and down motion that the pH is going to go through anyway. Another benefit of having a sump on an aquarium is that your evaporation doesn't leave from the main display. The main display is always being kept full by the return pump pumping water up to the top. It overflows, goes down in the sump, goes through all the sections, and then the return section of the sump is where the water evaporation is seen. And you can put an auto top-off on just that section, run an auto top-off reservoir to keep that section where it should be, and your tank, your skimmer section, and all these other parts of your tank, your refugium and all this, always stay at exactly the same water level, which allows you to dial things in really nicely and just keep a nice, clean, stable environment. There are a lot more things that sumps can do for you, like giving you an area to dose things into the aquarium that you don't want to dose right into the main display. And having your heaters down there means that when they kick on, the water is going to have time to blend and get up into the top of the aquarium without it being a hot spot in your tank. There's even more stuff than this that are good benefits of sumps, so you can see why a lot of people choose to run them. But they're not a one-size-fits-all. Some people have tanks that have a stand that you can't run a sump in. And I'm here to tell you that you can have a successful aquarium without having a sump on it. I've done it, and many people have done it over the years. It's just one of those things that really makes it a little bit nicer for you. So in my opinion, if you're planning a saltwater aquarium, see if you can factor in having a sump in your design. The benefits of running one far outweigh the cons of having one on the system. And if you jump into my Facebook group, I can tell you everything you need to know about how to set one up, but I'm going to make a video here for that too. Now, time for that insider info. There's a special place that you can go online right now to find heavily discounted sumps. And I am not affiliated. This is not sponsored. They're not paying me to say this. But they popped into my stream the other day, and Coral View let me know that if you Google the Coral View outlet store and go to the search and type in sumps, right now you will find a great deal of sumps, high-end sumps I might add, in their outlet store for rock bottom sump prices. Now I took a look today, and at the time of making this video, they have a lot to offer. So make sure you check that out while you're doing your search looking for a sump. Happy reefing.